50 hours, 26 students, 2 weeks, 1 team. During Project Fortnight at Cramlington Learning Village, we set ourselves a challenge: to present the case for reopening the Ashington-Blythe Tyne line in one short video. Here is the product of that challenge. The Ashington-Blythe and Tyne Railway, once a thriving method of public travel for residents in the surrounding areas, is still in use today. But sadly, the line is only used for freight transportation. Dating back to June 1st, 1840, the line initially opened solely for the purpose of transporting coal from Seg Hill to Percy Main. A year later, it was opened to passengers and quickly became an invaluable convenience for Northumberland residents. After 124 years of passenger line success, British Railways withdrew passenger services from Ashington and Blythe in 1964 to the dismay of local residents, who had lost easy access to larger areas of Northumberland. The North Tyneside Loop was also de-electrified 3 years later. Despite this, British Railways kept a large percentage of the network open for freight. However, with the closing of the lines came the decline of the northern coal industry, leaving the remaining lines unutilised. The South East Northumberland Rail User Group, known as SENRUG, has repeatedly pressed for Parliament to invest in line repairs and reopen them for passenger services. SENRUG strongly believe that it would be economically beneficial for Newcastle upon Tyne and the surrounding areas, creating jobs for station staff, ticket sellers and signal operators, as well as train drivers, massively boosting employment rates. This economic growth would then allow for multiple geographical expansions, including construction of new housing estates and small businesses in areas like Choppington, Seg Hill and Widrington, which are all located near the line. The reopening of the line itself would allow for easier and faster travel to the larger, busier areas of Northumberland. Rural areas aided by the line would also be able to expand geographically. To find out more about the line and the possibility of reopening it for passenger services, we interviewed Green Party MP Nick Best via Skype.
Because car transport has a place, but if the carbon emissions from a full bus or a full rail network, a full rail train, is a lot less per head than the carbon emissions from a car, and you want to reduce carbon emissions because the more carbon emissions there are, the more we get global warming.
Global warming is one of the biggest threats to our planet, which is why Nick wants to quell the effects of global warming, and investing in rail travel will help with that, as it creates less carbon emissions per head than car or bus travel.
The actual calculated cost for reopening the Ashington-Blythe Tyne line for rail traffic was estimated something like £45 million. Most of that was in basically checking out the signalling system and reinstalling the signalling system. It's 45 million out of 30 billion pounds is a small amount of money, but the problem is that the government sets some money aside for roads and some money aside for rail.
As Nick states, the majority of the £45 million required for the reinstatement of the existing lines for passenger use, a small sum for our government in relative terms, would be spent on reinstalling signalling systems that are currently only suitable for freight trains. Additionally, stations and platforms would be needed, some of which require little more than refurbishment. As you can see, the benefits would far outweigh the costs. We were also fortunate enough to have the chairman of SENRUG, Dennis Fansett, come to Cramlington Learning Village to talk to us about the campaign.
Hello, thank you for visiting our project. This is Mr. Dennis Fansett, who's the chairman of SENRUG. He's come here to talk to us about reopening the Blythe to Tyne Railway, which has been closed for some time. We hope you don't mind answering some questions we have for you.
No, I'm very pleased to. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, it's very fine. It's our pleasure.
Well, I believe that it will help regenerate South East Northumberland, particularly Ashington and Blythe. It will provide access for employment. People will be able to use the railway to get to work. So it will just help with the economic recovery in this area. Well, every single line like this across the country, a commuter line, actually makes a loss. So no local commuter lines are sustainable in that sense. That's not the way rural railways work in this country. The big intercity lines, which go down to London and up to Edinburgh, they will make a profit. So the companies which run those lines pay money to the government, but then the government pays some of that money back to the companies running the local lines. And the line to Ashington would be exactly the same. So I'm not trying to pretend it would make a profit. The issue is how much subsidy does it need based on the degree of economic benefits that it gives. And we think the case for the line to Ashington and Woodhorn is extremely strong, and I suspect it would require less subsidy to run than some of the other local and rural lines you see across the country.
Dennis expressed many ideas and shared some lesser-known facts regarding the problems that come with trying to reopen the line to the public. He pointed out the hypothetical uses the line would have, such as assisting people who want to move to another town, but are unable to because of limited transport links. The plan for the line calls for a number of unmanned stations to be situated along the line. This is a proposal for what one of the future stations may look like and the services it will include. As you can see, there are a number of key features on the station, such as facilities like an all-glass waiting room and modern toilets, lifts to transport commuters from one platform to the other, and a small kiosk, which will be franchised to local businesses to generate a small amount of revenue to be spent on the upkeep of the station. The station will also boast a number of advertising spaces and graffiti walls which will hold murals of the history of the town. Another important feature is the park and ride service, alongside a large car park, aimed at promoting the use of public transport for journeys to busy areas where car parking comes at a premium. A bus service will run from the town centres to the stations located on the outskirts of towns, such as from Newsham Station and Blythe Town Centre. Obviously the rail would have some minor negatives, like noise pollution to the nearby houses, as well as more serious problems. For example, increase in youth unemployment by providing jobs to older generations. Youths being unemployed is already a huge issue in the UK, especially in the North East, and this would just increase the difficulty many youths are facing.
Oh, I think it would be wonderful. It just means that people are being able to get to places without having to depend on buses, and it saves our roads, because our roads are getting messy.
I think it'll be a good idea. I think it'll make much more people into the town centre itself, and be easier to get to Newcastle instead of waiting for like 20-30 minutes for a bus. And a great idea.
It would be good for people going off to work, means that they would have direct lines. It would bring people into the town as well as people going out of the town, so it would be two-way traffic.
Well, Ashington used to be a thriving town, but now there's not much transport unless you have a bus to get in. If we had an added train or a metro, it would just be wonderful.
Yes, I use my legs most times, but I would use more of the transport if it was better.
Definitely. There's a lot of, things out there for pensioners, and I think this rail would benefit the young ones that wants to be into the town, and the older people. There is an older generation out there.
The future of the line goes hand in hand with the future of our area. If successful, the reopening would generate great financial rewards for the local economy and businesses. The number of jobs created would boost employment rates, bring tourists to the area, and open up the potential for housing to be developed in small towns currently deemed too inaccessible for such projects to be worthwhile. The reopening of the line would also cut connection times from towns in Northumberland to Newcastle upon Tyne, opening up countless opportunities for the people of these towns. The figure quoted for the reopening of the line is £60 million. This is a small price to pay for the future of our area.